Hello, and welcome to this episode of Akrinos Access. I'm your host, Eric Matei, joined today by Amanda Collaso. Amanda is the founder and owner of Bookkeeping for Optometry. And Amanda's joined us today for a really insightful conversation around year-end bookkeeping essentials for your practice. Amanda, welcome back to Akrinos Access.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Well, I know we've got so many things to jump into, and for those listeners out there that are kind of preparing for the year end and wanting to shore up their books, get everything in order, I think this is going to be a jam-packed episode of Access. So, Amanda, why don't we go ahead and kick it off by, why don't you just provide an overview, a general overview of what exactly is bookkeeping and what's the importance of maintaining balanced books?
Yeah, bookkeeping overall is just recording anything coming in and out of your business financially, tracking assets, tracking depreciation, making sure that one, you're compliant, and two, you're able to see kind of your overall performance in your practice and help make key decisions going forward. But yeah, it's a requirement by law, so it's important.
It is a requirement by law, and it's required by law. Also, practical tools. We were talking before going live here, and we'll jump into a bit later in the episode here, is the role of those good balanced books in informing strategic decisions for the practice, particularly as it pertains to, growth plans and opportunities there. So why don't we talk then about the significance of bookkeeping here at year end?
Yeah, I feel like the significance at year end is twofold. So you're looking to be compliant, like we talked about. You're looking to make sure that your financial reporting is accurate and IRS up to IRS standards. But more than anything, and what I really think that is more important than most people put the importance to, is the growth factor. Thinking about how having correct finances is going to help you make those decisions going forward. If you ever choose to sell or purchase a practice, good finances are really going to be key in that decision making. But like I said, overall, just looking at your performance, making sure that you're growing at a rate that you want to, making sure you're able to, when you're ready to hire, expand, take a new specialty, all of those things, you want to make sure that you have good finances to get a good look at where you are in your practice. Yeah.
Yeah. And those balanced books really are what opens it up to be able to look at your common size financials and have realistic benchmarks, right? Again, to your point, Amanda, around which to develop that strategic plan. So,
Mhm.
so let's dig a little bit deeper and talk about some of these unique aspects of bookkeeping at year end. Right. Why don't you elaborate on that? Because, in the modern optometry practice, we've got a rather robust chart of accounts. We also, many practices have the role of managed care.
Mhm.
Lab fees and reimbursements is also huge as well. So why don't you just discuss some of the unique aspects of bookkeeping in optometry here at year end?
Yeah. As we know, optometry is a multifaceted company to own. So you're going to look at inventory, making sure that your inventory is taken care of at year end, making sure that everything that you've recorded, that you've purchased, is being included at the end for inventory, and looking at, like you said, managed care cycle or revenue cycle management, and making sure that anything that's uncollected debt is written off at the end of the year. Many people don't realize that they can do that. Um, Looking at depreciation of your equipment, we know that offices are full of different pieces of equipment, and that depreciation is valuable to you in the end on your taxes at the end of the year. So yeah, kind of all of those things together, and then once again tying it together, and realizing that knowing at the very end of the year how you've done throughout the year will help you budget in the future. I think that that's a key thing as well.
Yeah, and now from a standpoint of chart of accounts, I know this is something that we discuss frequently offline, and I know we've
Yeah.
helped many practices also, get that chart of accounts set up. Why
Mhm.
don't you share a little bit as far as like some of these fundamental elements that you want to be sure you have in your chart of accounts in the modern optometry practice?
Yeah, I think that there are a number of things that you want to think about when you're organizing your chart of accounts, making sure that people, things, and your places are all separated and make sense when you're reviewing your finances. So, looking at occupancy, making sure that anything that you're paying that requires or that is required so that you can inhabit a space is being considered in one place, not mixed up with your payroll taxes or what have you. And then, of course, taking care of staff. What does that look like? Obviously, we know it's not just wages, it's overall look at benefits and anything else you might offer, even, uniform costs and maintenance, things like that. And then obviously your general overhead, making sure that you're taking into consideration office supplies and software that you're using. And then, of course, even separate from all of those things, considering your own pay and any associate doctor pay. You don't want to combine associate doctor and kind of look at that next to staff fees because they're not staff. It's a separate entity. So we're making sure that you get all of the information you need for all of the different facets of your practice.
And on that note, as far as chart of accounts go, Amanda, you guys have some great resources available at your website at bookkeepingforoptometry.com at free downloads, right? Folks can have access to kind of get more insights, some deeper dive into that chart of accounts.
Yeah, yep, and we just recently kind of put the stamp on our chart of accounts and we're offering it as a resource to different interested parties because I do think that that is really the building blocks of good finances, and I feel like it's important, like I said, for everyone to have those substantial building blocks to move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. So listeners out there, definitely head on over to Bookkeeping for Optometry to get your free download of a modern optometric chart of accounts. Get started on the
Mhm.
right foot, you know. So okay, so we were talking about chart of accounts. Let's start to dig now into, all right, at the time we're recording this, it's November 2023. What kind of things are you guys really focusing on, or when folks are coming to you perhaps here at year end with their books are kind of a mess, hey, help us get cleaned up for the year end? What are some of these key areas to start in, like how to start really going about doing it, albeit on this kind of tight timetable we're operating on?
Yeah, I feel like it's very common for us, just like we see patients inside of optometry kind of use it or lose it season. It's the same thing that we're going through is everyone's coming like it's year end, we need to know, we need to get everything cleaned up. So making sure we go through and like I said, take into consideration inventory loss and gains, anything that has to do with revenue cycle management, but more than that, making sure that to create those habits that allow you to not be doing it all at the end of the year is really important too. So, yeah, we're just looking at all of those things combined. And like I said, really helps setting up different processes so that we aren't doing this all at the end of the year when they're also, practice owners are also busy and, doing clinical work and things like that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. There's a whole lot going on at year end and let alone having bookkeeping like layered on top of that. But it's so important to tie back to something you said earlier in the conversation, Amanda, and to our listeners out there. It's so important to realize that if those books are not balanced, doing any sort of analysis of our financials, looking at common sized financials to really identify opportunities in the practice where you're not aligning with benchmark.
Mm,
It all starts with having those books, that chart of account accurately set up so that
yeah.
everything coming into the practice and going out of the practice is hitting the right items. Um, just so absolutely critically important. So on that note, Amanda, you kind of shared, and I know you gave some high level of some of the things that are kind of the common things that are arising here. But one of the things you said was establishing these habits for the new year. And again, I'll invite everyone, all of our audience, head on over to Bookkeeping for Optometry, download your free resource for the modern optometric chart of accounts, made available only by Bookkeeping for Optometry. So why don't you talk a little bit about, you know, we've just got this chart of accounts. We're pulling, well, for starters, we're pulling our hair out right now to get everything wrapped up for year end. Okay.
Exactly.
And then we've just pulled our chart of accounts because we want to be sure that in the new year, we're really rocking and rolling. You said things about setting up good systems. So why don't you speak now, Amanda, shift gears into talking about what are good bookkeeping systems and some tips and best practices that folks can really take to heart to make it happen.
Yeah, I would say once again, I'll go back to revenue cycle management, making sure that those processes and collections are really honed in, and whoever's in charge of that, whether it's outside sources or inside of your office, is really has an idea of how often to check into those things, how often to reconcile and audit those reports. And then there's also inventory. I feel like oftentimes we're looking at our inventory at the very end of the year, but then that's not showing you, are you having any sort of like uh, it's not letting you check your inventory often enough to give you information about what you need and what you could kind of scale back on buying. And so I feel like quarterly inventory checks are really important. Like I said, not the end of the year, quarterly, and setting those habits, setting a calendar reminder or something saying like, I need to check my inventory. Obviously you can have a staff member do that, and keeping those regular reports up. Obviously, making sure to talk to somebody that's going to help you prepare for taxes in the new year. I feel like often we're guessing at how much we should put aside for taxes. And if you have a really good tax planner, then that allows you to make those decisions and not pay too much, or at the end of the year, not enough. And then, of course, I would say the biggest and most important thing is making a budget. That goes back to having really good books. So you can only make a budget accurately if you're having precise books, if you really know where your money's went and where you want it to go. So yeah, keeping on top of budgeting and actually doing it every month is really important, because it's really easy to make one and then never check it again, right? So yeah, making
Absolutely.
those monthly and quarterly kind of routines are really important to keeping up your books and making sure that you're aware of what's going on.
You hit on a couple of really key pieces there. The first of which you mentioned the importance of having a tax planner,
Mhm.
a CPA, a tax professional on the team, and I think that's something that definitely everyone needs to be aware of. Uh, Bookkeeping in that world is separate from tax planning and accounting. And as a
Mhm.
matter of fact, I know, Amanda, that we work closely collectively with some great CPAs,
Yeah.
with optometry practices and doctors across the country. So definitely wanted to make a call out there. Again, audience, be sure you have that CPA, that tax planner on your team that's going to see to you being good and right with Uncle Sam, but also strategically good and right with Uncle Sam, which brings me to the second point that I think you touched on that's so vital to point out. Man, a lot of the work that we do at Akrinos, we do the feasibility studies. We're creating these strategic plans, these financial pro formas for these big milestones in the practice. And
Mhm.
as it were, when we have doctors coming to us saying, hey, I'm ready to bring on that associate. Help me build the financial plan and the strategic plan for bringing on the associate, or making my associate a partner, or purchasing an office because I'm ready to relocate out of this lease into my own building. Again, these big milestones that warrant the feasibility analysis, the market analysis, the strategic planning that we do. When we have good financials and good books that we can create the pro formas around, the feasibility
Mhm.
analyses around, it's amazing, right? Just sets everyone up for success, as opposed to having to work with books that are maybe not in such great order, right? So,
Yeah.
so many facets of the practice, both, you know, right now, the day to day, understanding where the money is going, where the money is coming from, but more specifically, where the money is going, right?
Mhm.
Our expenses, where are they going, such that we can assess common size financials to benchmark the practice. But also, when we're looking at those next big milestones in the practice that I mentioned a moment ago,
Mhm.
knowing that we have good, solid books and financials around which to base our future facing feasibility analysis, pro forma, strategic plan. Awesome, awesome stuff. So, Amanda, this has been a really, really great conversation. I know we barely scratched the surface. So, maybe to pull it all together, if you can share, a little bit about the scope of work that you guys do at Bookkeeping for Optometry and how folks can get in touch with you.
Yeah. So we do obviously bookkeeping. We are separate from tax preparers, tax planners, and CPAs because I do believe that audit process is really important. Auditing between your books going from us into your CPA and vice versa. It's easy to kind of catch anything that you might miss or any opportunities to save even more money on taxes, what have you. So, yeah, we do also a little bit of consultancy. We love the in and out work every day, the transactional, categorization, but we really do also enjoy sitting down with clients and being strategic with them, noticing those trends of their cost of goods going up so much, but their incomes are going up. Where can we help? What can we do? Looking at their Edge Pro analysis or whatever, information that they have. And so yeah, we love being able to sit down and help doctors and learn how their practice works so that they can, really succeed moving forward. And I do find, maybe I'm biased, but having a niched, professional is really important because they really do understand what you're looking for in your, once again, chart of accounts, which is like the buzzword, but it's the most important part in my opinion. And so, having those professionals that know about optometry, that know what that looks like for your practice. But yeah, if you can find us at anything at Bookkeeping for Optometry, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we are on Facebook. Our email is support@bookkeepingforoptometry.com. We're pretty good about making sure to get back to people quickly because we want to help as much as we can. And even for those that don't necessarily need our services, we do like to have those relationships and kind of refer out to people in the industry and create those relationships. We enjoy that a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. So amazing stuff that you guys do. And once again, folks, you can head on over to bookkeepingforoptometry.com, learn more, and be sure to go grab that chart of accounts. Grab that chart of accounts. I mean, Amanda, I know from work that Akrinos and Bookkeeping for Optometry have come to do collaboratively in serving some practices. It's not uncommon that even established practices years in, that chart of accounts is just it's not fit. I mean, dare I say it's a classic. It's the way we've always done things, right?
Yes, yeah.
But nonetheless, absolutely get on over to the Bookkeeping for Optometry website, download your free resource guide for the modern optometric chart of accounts, and connect with Amanda in LinkedIn. I know that's how Amanda and I first came to meet and share some ideas, and lo and behold, we're getting the opportunity to do so many great things with so many doctors across the country, starting practices, looking to take their established practice to the next level. And Amanda's a great resource. You can find her there in LinkedIn. So Amanda Collaso, Bookkeeping for Optometry, wrapping up a fascinating conversation all around bookkeeping, year-end bookkeeping essentials for your practice. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And for all of our viewers out there, you can find more great practice management tips and insights like this over at Akrinos.com. And while you're over there, check out some of the cool Akrinos solutions that we've got that can help you bring that vision to reality. Be sure to follow us on the socials and subscribe to the Akrinos YouTube channel. On behalf of all of us here at Akrinos, Eric Matei signing off.